One of the main indications that climate change is happening is the rise in global average temperature, which has risen by nearly 1 degree Celsius during the last 100 years and is still increasing. CO2 levels have increased by 30% since the Industrial Revolution, and as the demand for power grows, so does the rate of CO2 concentrations. The average temperature of the globe is expected to rise by 2 to 3 degrees over the next century, a greater change in climate than there has been for at least 10,000 years. With this in mind, the fire and rescue services in the northwest have all publicly pledged to take action on climate change and have begun to implement a variety of initiatives to help reduce their carbon footprint. They are all taking part in the local authority carbon management programme, managed by the Carbon Trust, and have all agreed targets for reducing their own carbon emissions. Let us start with Cheshire Fire and Rescue Service and the recently introduced Cycle to Work scheme. Runcorn firefighter and member of the Sports and Welfare Cycling team, Richard Whitley, first suggested the scheme.
The Cycle to Work initiative enables employers to lease bicycles and associated safety equipment to their employees through salary sacrifice. This means that employees receive tax and national insurance savings that can be equivalent to over 50% off retail price of their bikes. The scheme allows the employee to go along to any participating cycle outlet in their area and select a bike that best suits their needs. This can range from a mountain bike, a road bike or a hybrid bike, depending on their route to work. They can also select any suitable safety equipment such as a helmet, security lock or clothing, provided the amount total does not exceed £1,000. Since the scheme was introduced, staff have quickly embraced it. Watches throughout the service now boast members who have abandoned their normal car journey into work in favour of cycling. Staff are now saving money on petrol, increasing fitness and helping the environment. In addition, the bikes have given the staff an opportunity to socialise outside of work, organising cycling trips and days out and contributing to the overall team spirit. The scheme has been a great success and so far nearly 300 employees in Cheshire Fire and Rescue Service have taken up this opportunity and the number is increasing all the time. Encouraging staff to take up the Cycle to Work scheme will reduce employees' CO2 emissions from commuting. We are also looking at the feasibility of introducing service bicycles for community fire protection and community fire safety staff. This will further contribute to reducing CO2 emissions and will make sure Cheshire Fire and Rescue Service is on the right road to fulfil its commitment to carbon reduction.
Now on to Greater Manchester, where they have just completed the first of their new build projects in Ashton-under-Lyme. Estates Manager Tim Cheshire tells us more.
Welcome to Ashton-under-Lyme Fire Station, our exemplar building and the first of our design and build projects where we have incorporated a BREEAM assessment as part of the quality assurance process. Examples of installations within Ashton-under-Lyme Fire Station project are solar collectors, and these are used for domestic hot water use, using the sun to heat the water rather than gas. A rainwater harvesting system is used to recover rainwater from the roof areas, stored in tanks, and this is used in turn to flush the toilets within this building. High efficiency boiler plant provides best use of gas, and all radiators within this building include for thermostatic radiator valves for localised controls.
As Tim has covered, the station at Ashton boasts many innovative low carbon technologies which are helping to contribute to our overall authority target of a 25% reduction in our direct CO2 footprint. As we look to build new sites, we'll be able to consider utilising low carbon technologies we've seen at Ashton, and we'll also be able to evaluate their suitability for our existing building stock to reduce our carbon footprint, our contribution to climate change, and ultimately optimise our resources.
Here at Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Service, we will be building 5 new fire stations over the next 5 years. We will build on the success of Ashton-under-Lyme Fire Station by utilising new technology where appropriate to ensure that we meet our low carbon commitments.
In Cumbria, fell fires are a huge risk to the environment. We hear from Duncan Taylor about their new Land Rovers, which are specifically designed to tackle these sorts of emergencies.
Cumbria Fire and Rescue Service have developed a multi-stranded approach to fighting wildfires to reduce the environmental impact on Cumbria's rural landscape. Wildfires can cause damage to sensitive ecosystems which can take years to regenerate. 3 million tonnes of carbon are tied up in the peat uplands of the UK, and a large proportion of that is in the North Pennines in Cumbria, thereby threatening the sustainability of rural communities. They can occur in different vegetation types, but the most impact is caused in forests and on peat moorlands. As part of our risk profiling, we recognised that wildfires are likely to increase with the longer, hotter, drier summers predicted. In Cumbria, we have developed an intervention strategy which is based on our 8 new Land Rovers. We have developed 8 wildfire teams with specialist equipment and training. We have trained our teams in wildfire behaviour prediction and safety protocols for use on the fireground at wildfires. We've equipped our wildfire teams with new lightweight firefighting clothing. Structural fire kit is too hot and heavy for use on the fells. Each Land Rover is equipped with a Fire Express low pressure fogging system, which is ideal for wildland firefighting. On the prevention side, we have formed the Cumbria Wildfire Group. This is a group of rural agencies, all with an interest in minimising the impact of wildfires. We have organisation involved such as the National Trust, the National Parks and the Forestry Commission. The Wildfire Group has a 2-year business plan, which includes elements such as training for rural agencies who may get involved in firefighting, and a public education and awareness programme, which should minimise the risk of wildfires happening and ensure that they're reported quickly. Most wildfires are of human origin, so public awareness is a key factor in our strategy. When we receive a report of a potential wildfire, we will dispatch our normal resources, which will be the nearest fire engine. On attending the scene, the incident commander will assess and decide whether he needs the services of a specialist wildfire team, who will then be mobilised with their Land Rover and supporting pump. Specialist officers will also attend and make further decisions as to what resources may be required.
Over in Lancashire, they have introduced a new environmental protection unit designed to stop polluting materials entering the environment. Watch Manager John Ogden explains.
We're here today to have a scenario with the hazardous material unit, of which Lancashire has 2 appliances, one based at Rothamstall and the other based at 37 South Shore. The main aim of this unit is to prevent any hazardous materials entering any watercourse and causing permanent damage to the environment. The hazardous material unit turns out on instruction of the Environmental Agency to carry out pollution control. The scenario we carried out this morning was to stop pollution of a non-contaminant material entering a watercourse. With this, we carried out a puncture of a 45-gallon drum with a contaminant within it. The first line of attack by the fire service would be to conceal the hole with damp putty, which is put over the hole and directly stops the flow, temporarily for up to 24 hours. The second line of attack would be to stop any contaminant entering any watercourse. This is achieved by placing a damp putty mat over any drain to stop any contaminant entering. The next measure would be to place a water-filled polyboom around the contaminant to contain it, so the water or contaminant will be contained and can be taken away at a later date. Once this has been achieved, the Environmental Agency will then take over and dispose of the contaminant in a safe manner. The purpose of the hazardous material unit is for the fire service to work in partnership with the Environmental Agency and make Lancashire a safer place.
In Merseyside, a fire bike is being used as a rapid response vehicle for inner city alarms. Deputy Chief Fire Officer Mike Hagan explains the benefits.
In Merseyside, we're committed to sustainability and to protecting the environment. That extends to the way we respond to incidents. The traditional response to all incidents is to send 2, sometimes 3 fire appliances. Now, in many areas, particularly our city centres, many of the calls we received are from automatic fire alarms, and the vast majority of these turned out to be false calls. There is no fire. So we've looked at an alternative response to the traditional fire engine, and we've used a fire bike, a motorbike, to respond to those incidents where we suspect there is no fire. That fire bike is quicker through the traffic, it uses less fuel, and therefore we produce less carbon emissions. And of course it prevents us having to tie up fire engines to an incident that doesn't result in a fire. I think the fire bike's been a great success over the last 2 years, and I'm sure we're going to see more innovation in the future.
We have seen just a brief snapshot of some of the carbon reduction projects being implemented at each of the North West Fire and Rescue Services. There are many more projects planned and underway, including work to improve heating, ventilation and air conditioning systems, low consumption lighting and electrical equipment, water recycling and better use of transport. No single person or organisation can tackle climate change on their own. It is clear, however, that the combined enthusiasm, commitment and dedication of the fire and rescue services in the North West is having a real impact on ensuring a better and more sustainable future for everyone.